we were touring the facility, I could see you guys put a lot of time and effort and thought into how you were going to do everything, from the lighting, using a lighting company that has ballasts that are remote into a server room, so you're not putting all that load into the room, and how that affects and played with the HVAC equipment, how much AC you needed, which then also affects how much dehumidification, your latent sensible loads, and you took a lot of time and effort to go through all of that.
For sure. The devil's in the details, they say. And a project of this magnitude and scope and amount of automation, there's a lot of details. When we initially started doing load calculations, there were variables in effect, and some of those variables were latent and sensible load, air condition selections, dehumidification selections, and lighting selections. Ultimately, we leaned on the Anden team to help us out with latent loads for the Anden dehumidifiers. Some of the things that played a part in those decisions were our decisions to go with the TSR lighting team, and they have the remote servers and drivers, so we don't have any ballast inside the rooms. And due to the lack of ballast, it reduced a little bit of the necessary HVAC load, or the tonnage, and then the LEDs themselves reduced a little bit of that latent load that we were going to need for dehumidification, or actually increased it. We weren't getting that radiant heat that we've traditionally had off those HPS lights. But it was good to have the Anden team along the way to kind of help us put together the pieces and make sure we did our math, once and then checked it twice and feel good about it.
I think you did pretty hand with Emerson Swan too, and helping you get the HVAC all dialed in and set up.
For sure. Oh, they say it takes a village. Oh, and it definitely takes a village at a place like this scale, of this magnitude, and this amount of automation.
So Brett, thank you for joining us. We've heard you're kind of like the master of the facilities around here. What are some of the favorite aspects of this building to you?
Well, putting it together, the one hanging the Anden units, that was actually really fun. Super easy, like all the brackets and everything that you all supplied. It literally, once I got all the strut and everything up, it was no time to hang them. I think I got them all hung in one afternoon. I literally had them all up. So a little bit of prep and lead time on it, but all in all, not a problem. So
I recall that process. I was definitely a little timid, not having as much skin in the game as Brett does when it means dive in and construct. And I was a little apprehensive, and Brett felt so confident about the layout of the 710s and the installation methods and instructions that were provided. And the majority of the time spent was just prepping the strut and prepping the threaded rod. We rented a material lift, and I literally think we sent up 9 of them in one day.
Yeah, I had some discussions with you over the internet, and we went over some fine details, and those were just the icing on the cake. It just, from there, it was like we hit the ground running, and it didn't take long.
For sure, we were real quick to be pointed out by the Anden team. It's been super helpful along the process. Thanks, Victoria. With assisting us as we kind of work through the planning and design stage as well as the implementation stage. And the Anden team was real quick to point out that, hey, you can reduce those spikes by just independently putting each one in its own dry count test. We've done so, and now we've really been able to baseline our humidity points, and we've been able to stabilize them and maintain those VPDs.
Yeah, because you've got from week 1 in flower to week 5, 6 to week 9, 10, whatever you go to. You've got different requirements and your dehumidification loads and humidification loads, and to tie all that together, it's just not the best thing to do. It's not the best practice.
For sure. And we get the same sort of control on the Anden steam units. The Anden steam units not only allow almost no maintenance to date, unlike in the past the fog and ultrasonic misters we've used that are really high maintenance and potential to clogging and jamming up, as well as their need for RO. With the steam units, we don't find any of that at all.
Yeah, and with the nice thing about the steam humidifiers too is that you're using here is the only thing in them is a canister to be replaced. There's not a lot of maintenance. There's not nozzles to replace, not anything really to clean. It's a cylinder inside of the unit that comes out, put a new one in, and you start. It's like getting a new engine in your car every time you go to get your oil changed. And you start fresh with that new canister, and it's very simple, very easy, low maintenance, and that's a good way to do it.
That's what's excited us about the Anden steam humidifiers the most. Is it's one thing that we don't have to worry about, and the ability for them to have low voltage communication, 1 to 10 volts, and throttle the humidity depending upon the room size or the stage of growth is really nice too. If I want to lift humidity or increase humidity greatly in a short period of time, I can run them at 100%.